Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
What a great Mississippi morning, a warm Mississippi morning. Today, we recognize trailblazers. The Freedom Riders were pioneers, leading America through struggle and perseverance to a better place. 50 years ago, they stepped onto buses armed with faith and certain will and prevailed. I am Mary Beth Wilkerson, Director of Tourism for the Mississippi Development Authority. The example of the Freedom Riders, their courage, their strength, and bravery is one we can all follow. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to this very special occasion. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge a few of our partners who are here today with us. It won't take very long because I know it's very hot today. First, I would like to thank all of our local and state officials, our local and state elected officials, many of you who are in the crowd today. Would you please raise your hand? Thank you so much for being here. Governor Barber, it is certainly a pleasure to have you with us here today. Certainly appreciate it. There are also several members of the Mississippi Freedom Trail Task Force here with us today. Could you raise your hand, please? Also, our wonderful state agency partner, the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, their executive director, Hank Holmes, who will be very instrumental in working with our office, the Mississippi Development Authority, on this project. We appreciate you and your team being here. Thank you, Hank. Also, some wonderful partners, our Mississippi Freedom Trail production partners, Hammonds and Associates, the wonderful production team that has put together the Mississippi Blues Trail, the Mississippi Country Music Trail, and this wonderful trail. Thank you, Hammonds. I couldn't go without thanking my staff, the MDA tourism staff, who've worked day in and day out to make this day and every day forth on the Mississippi Freedom Trail project come to fruition. Thank you, staff. And also the Mississippi Freedom 50th Foundation, the Honorable Justice Reuben Anderson and Jean Luckett. Thank you for being here. And finally, a special thanks to the Jackson Convention and Visitors Bureau and the City of Jackson for your great support in making today happen. Thank you so much. And speaking of the City of Jackson, today with us is the Honorable Mayor Harvey Johnson. We appreciate you being here and would like for you to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
On behalf of the City of Jackson, it brings me great pleasure to welcome each of you to this historic unveiling. I applaud the state of Mississippi, MDA and the Tourism Division for putting the Mississippi Freedom Trail together. Also, I applaud all of those who have lent their talent and time to research this very important historical period here in our state and indeed in our country. We're certain that the sites that have been selected across the state, some 30 I understand right now, and those that are right here in Jackson, there are 9 currently in Jackson, will continue to educate not only our citizens, but also the millions of visitors from across the globe who visit us each year on the important struggle of so many of our people. And I'm certain that this trail will enhance the understanding of all those who take the time to visit these sites. And the location of today's unveiling, the former Greyhound bus station. For many Freedom Riders who came to our city some 50 years ago, this facility and city would not have been a welcoming place. During a time where so many of us have come together to commemorate the brave souls, the Freedom Riders who are having their reunion here, it's emblematic for us to be here today in this place that was unwelcoming to so many of us 50 years ago. In fact, the entire interstate, the public interstate bus system, came to symbolize the horrors of retaliation and terrorism associated with those who would stopped the civil rights workers and beat them and firebomb buses. So we're here today to unveil one monument and one commemoration to these individuals. As a matter of fact, exactly 50 years ago today, it was at this destination that the second Freedom Riders bus on May 24th arrived. And of course, after the arrival, the civil rights workers and the demonstrators and the Freedom Riders were detained in various facilities, from pens at the state fairground to county jail, city jail, and even Parchment. Yet even this could not quell the undesirable, undeniable spirit of those brave and men and women who came forth from far away and joined the hundreds of Jacksonians and Mississippians who fought side by side for equality here in Mississippi. It's fitting that we honor this place, a place where Freedom Riders arrived in Jackson, a place that carried hope to and from our doorsteps in the struggle to achieve freedom and equality. So given all this history and what this place has meant to our civil rights landscape, it is my pleasure to welcome each of you again to this event today. And let me just say, if I go off script just a little bit, thanks to Robert Parker Adams and his firm for restoring this facility. And I just want you to know that his heart is not just in this facility, but Robert has been a mainstay and a mover in making sure that the architecture of Jackson and the architecture of our culture is preserved in our city. And we'd like to thank you, Robert, for all you do. Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Now I would like to introduce the host for today's unveiling ceremony, Dr. Leslie McLemore, Director of the Fannie Lou Hamer National Institute of Citizenship and Democracy at Jackson State University and a member of the Mississippi Freedom Trail Task Force. Please join me in welcoming Dr. McLemore.
Thank you, Mary Beth. This is the longest title I've had in all the years that I've been working, so thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is a great day in Jackson, Mississippi. This is a great day in America. Thank you for being here. The Freedom Riders, the Freedom Riders. A show of hands, where are the Freedom Riders? Where are the Freedom Riders? Welcome home. Welcome home. We are so delighted that you are home again and stay a long time and spend a lot of money in the city of Jackson. Thank you. It has become very clear to me from yesterday and today, and this morning especially, in the different panel discussions, is that as we come together, and as we came together 50 years ago, we were active in our communities before we became Freedom Riders. So many of us were already involved. And the same thing is true in Mississippi. Yesterday, we unveiled the marker in honor of Medgar Evers and his family. And some of you know that Medgar Evers was appointed the first permanent field secretary of the NAACP in 1954. So we know that there was action in this state prior to 54, but Medgar was the paid professional working for the NAACP. So Medgar Evers worked with CORE, he worked with SNCC, he worked with SCLC, and he worked with the Freedom Riders. So when you came to Mississippi in '61, there was something off the ground here in Jackson called the Jackson Movement. And that was an NAACP project, because you know from your history that in March of 1961, March 27th, the famous Tougaloo Nine tried to integrate the library here in the city of Jackson. So you know there was activity going on. You know that Medgar Evers was one of the investigators of the death of Emmett Till. So we know there was action. So we know, the Freedom Riders, that you are very, very important, because there was some pre-Freedom Riders history And it's important that we all share that history. And let us remember that we have tried to recognize the unsung sheroes and heroes, which was an ongoing theme this morning. And it's an ongoing theme as we move forward, because there are so many unnamed sheroes and heroes that helped to lay the foundation for the Freedom Riders and for what we are doing today. But we are grateful to you, Freedom Riders, because you provided the foundation, the launching pad, because as I pointed out the other evening, so many of you remained in Mississippi, went to Macomb at the advice of Amzie Moore and C.C. Bryan, and started the Macomb Project. So many of you were expelled from Berkman High School and Macomb, and you came to Campbell College here in Jackson, and you spread across the country. The Freedom Riders. In fact, someone pointed out this morning that all of us who were involved in the movement in the local communities, people refer to as Freedom Riders. And I was never a Freedom Rider. I didn't get on any bus. But when I would go from door to door in Holly Springs and Benton County and other places in North Mississippi, I tried to explain to them that I was not a Freedom Rider, but they wouldn't listen. So I said, why not? Yes, I'm a Freedom Rider. And it was an honor to be a Freedom Rider. So today, we encourage Freedom Riders to stay with us beyond the week. The mayor had a column in this morning's paper, Mayor Johnson, indicating that the city is business friendly. And I know some of you Freedom Riders are in business now, and you want to start businesses. So why don't you stay in Jackson and set up business in Jackson? Because we welcome you. But so as we fashion this history, let us remember that we all collectively, in one way or another, individually, made contributions to where we are now. That is why this is a great day in America and a great day in Mississippi. And then, as all of us know, as Senator Frazier pointed out yesterday, there are 13 African Americans in the state Senate. There are 47 African Americans in the House of Representatives. And Freedom Riders, I want y'all to know that before you came here, when 50 years ago, we didn't have all these people in the legislature. And we are building up on your foundation. And tonight at the banquet, I want y'all to meet as many of those legislators as possible, all of the supervisors. I want you to meet the former legislators, the former judges. I want you to meet everybody who wants to be in the legislature tonight at the banquet, because we are on the move in Mississippi. So give it up for Mississippi. Now let me do what I was asked to do. Let me do what I was asked to do. But I am so excited. Former Supreme Court Justice Fred Lee Banks Jr. Right there. Hold your hand up, Fred, so they can see you. Folks, y'all did it. NAACP man, Fred Banks, lawyer. Y'all made it happen. Freedom Riders. So y'all have so much to be proud of. That's why I want you to stay longer and be with us in Mississippi. So to offer the invocation is philosopher, preacher, and my friend, Dr. T.W. Lewis. T.W., where are you, brother? Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Larry. You're welcome, brother. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Most holy and glorious Lord God, God of peace and God of justice, once you did ask, whom shall I send and who will go for us? The ages are peopled with your prophets and your martyrs who have answered that call in critical times and places. Today we stand in one of those places and remember with gratitude the time young men and women said, "Enough of these barriers, send us." And that was enough to compel the enforcement of laws governing interstate travel. That was also enough to awaken a slumbering population to the reality that a nonviolent movement was underway for civil rights in America. Today, as we mark this place in honor of those who came here 50 years ago, we give you thanks for your spirit that moved them. We invoke your blessing upon them, and we hold dear the memory of those among them who have passed away. May this marker now placed here not only inform those who pass by what was done here, but remind them of the debt owed to those who chose to ride for freedom. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Lewis. We're going to have remarks from several individuals. We're going to start with Supervisor George Smith, District 5, who's president of the Hinds County Board of Supervisors. Brother Smith, please, a hand.
Good morning,
Morning.
Freedom Riders and friends. This is a great morning, and as president of the Hinds County Board of Supervisors, I'm happy to welcome the greatest heroes and sheroes I know in the state of Mississippi, that's here in the state of Mississippi, and throughout the nation. It is indeed an honor for you to be here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Riders here to Mississippi. One of the things I do want to just mention that we, the Board of Supervisors, on Saturday recognize some of our former and local Freedom Riders, and I see Mr. Watkins, I see Ms. Williams, and if there's any more, you may want to raise your hand, but we were able to recognize them on Saturday. As I stand here, I do remember that I do have my AARP card in my pocket, which means that, and I recall that I had to enter a different door here, and I had to pay the same price for the ticket, but yet go behind the curtain. But I'm grateful to be here today to begin the unveiling of the Freedom Marker, trail marker here at the former Greyhound bus station. As you know, in 1960, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation interstate buses in a rail station was unconstitutional. In 1961, you, the Freedom Riders, came here to this station to make sure that that law was upheld and have a test. That test failed. Therefore, we know that we stand on your shoulders and we can never repay the debt that we owe. The best that we can do is to say thank you, heroes and sheroes, you, the Freedom Riders. We are overjoyed to have you here and recognize that you are all, we all owe you throughout this nation, this state, this nation, and may God bless you and keep you. And we hope you stay and realize the thanks that we want to give you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Smith. Let's then move to Senator David Blount from District 29, Mississippi State Senate. Let's give him a round of applause.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
It is really an honor for me as a senator from this part of Jackson to be included and invited for this historic occasion. I saw some of my colleagues. Senator Hillman Frazier is here, also from Jackson. And Senator John Horn is here, also from Jackson. I want to thank them for being here. I was thinking as I was taking my children to school this morning. My children attend Jackson Public Schools, and I knew I had to give this very brief remarks this morning. And I was thinking, you're always looking for a teachable moment with your kids. I thought about first the Freedom Riders and their parents, many of whom I think are probably not here today, and what it must have been like for them to know that their children were going down to Mississippi to ride buses, and what it must have been like for them worrying what could happen to their children down here in Mississippi. And then I thought about their children here who are probably so proud of them, because even though we look for teachable moments for our children, what we do and what we have done teaches a lot more than what we may say to our children. But I did want to say quickly 3 things that I hope my children and all the children in Jackson and all the children really from all over the country that are going to come here and see this bus station and see this marker, what I hope they'll remember. First is, I want them to take pride in being from Jackson and from Mississippi, and that history that affected the entire United States of America and really the whole world was made right here in Jackson, Mississippi. And I want them to be proud of that. I want them to realize that history can be made by ordinary people, by college students or people who are not even old enough to go to college. And that history is not always made by presidents and CEOs, but that can be made by ordinary people. Thirdly, I want them to remember that history and that progress is often difficult. And it's easy for us who are younger and who were not here in 1961 to think that all this was inevitable, that all this was going to happen, that somehow the great sweep of history was going to take care of this and resolve this without any conflict and without the courageous involvement of ordinary people. Well, things don't happen by accident. They don't happen in the legislature by accident, and they didn't happen here in Jackson, Mississippi by accident. They happened here because of struggle and because of the courageous people who were here, and we owe them our thanks. I especially want to thank our governor, Governor Barber, who is here sweating with the rest of us. I believe one of the things I'm most gratified about this entire week is the tone that our state government and our city government mayor have set, and how different it is, and the striking contrast that we've seen. I believe that tone has been set by Governor Barber and by Mayor Johnson and by the Board of Supervisors, and as a small part of that public official world out there, I'm very proud to be associated with it. The state of Mississippi is glad you're here. The state of Mississippi recognizes what's happened here, and we're proud that we have made progress, and we thank you for making that progress possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. We are also going to have brief comments from one of the task force members of this activity from Jackson, who represents part of Hinds County, Madison County, Senator John Horn. Let's give the senator a rousing round of applause. John?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How many of you have your book, Breach of Peace? If you don't have the book, you need to go get it. You can get it down at the Mississippi Museum of Art. How many of you have been to the Mississippi Museum of Art to see the exhibit, Breach of Peace? If you haven't, you need to go down to your museum and see that wonderful exhibit that captures history in Mississippi 50 years ago. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to stand in this moment of history. You know, I was 6 years old when the Freedom Riders came to Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, come on, John.
I was 6, unless we know how old you were. We know how old you were, because you were a pseudo Freedom Rider. But as I look at the pictures of the men and women in this book and on the walls of the museum, I can't help but marvel what they must have been thinking. They were so young. They were idealistic. They had no fear. and yet they came and did one of the bravest things that's ever been done by anyone in this country in the name of fairness and justice. "50 years ago, there were no historic markers paying tribute to African Americans' presence in the state of Mississippi. Last year, for the first time, the state legislature allocated $2 million to begin a recognition of civil rights sites throughout the state of Mississippi. And we now have hundreds of sites identified, with 32 that are going to be done in the next few months. We have what we call the top 5. This site is one of the top 5. It is the 3rd site that has been so named. The first being the store in Money, Mississippi, where Emmett Till allegedly whistled at a white woman and lost his life. The second being the home of Medgar Evers. And this 3rd one being the Greyhound bus station, where so many young people, hundreds of them, put their lives on the line and came south or left their homes in Mississippi and came to be freedom riders. And I don't know about you, but I sure am glad they did. You know, a lot of us in the legislature, all this stuff doesn't come without a struggle. We still have work to do. We prevailed, but we still have resistance to doing these markers, to establishing a civil rights museum. And Governor Barber, I want to say personally, thank you very much for the leadership that you showed in getting us the money for a $20 million civil rights museum in the state of Mississippi. But one of the arguments that I say to my brothers and sisters in the legislature, we have to put our past in front of us in order to put our past behind us. And this marker, this program today, is a great commemoration of some very, very brave and courageous people. And I want us to all hug a freedom rider before you leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. I know he's had his eye on one particular freedom rider. He mentioned that to me last night. So he wants to hug her. I know what the deal is. Now we're going to hear from our host, Brother Robert Parker Adams. Please come forward, brother. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you and welcome to the Greyhound Station, which is now the home to my architectural firm. This building was built in 1937 before most of the people here, I believe, were born, except for a few of us. And it served for Jackson's bus station for 50 years. There are many good memories here, as well as very not so good memories. The good memories are that this was the position at which you joined your family or your loved ones who was returning from afar, from a vacation, or from wherever, much as you would do at the airport nowadays. There were some bad memories here, sadness, because this is where at the height of World War II, many of the soldiers went away to war and many of them did not return. There are good memories here for me because I went to high school in Central High, right there in that brick building. And we used to cut class and come over here and have a 6-ounce Coke and play the pinball machine. And we would do that until the coaches came over here and paddle our bottoms and sent us back to school again. And that was both good memories, and the paddling was a bit of a painful memory, but nowhere near the painful memory of what happened here in 1961. Those of you who were here then, and I hope many of you are here now, we certainly owe a debt of gratitude. I'm a preservation architect, and what I do for a living is put old buildings and old memories back together again to live on. And there are plenty of both right here. When we moved in 1988, We restored the outside of this building to exactly as it looked in 1937 when it was built. It looked very much like this in 1961, except for the signage, of course. The interior was changed in what we call an adaptive use because it no longer is a bus station, it's an architect's office. And I will invite you later to join me inside. But in this corner to my left over here was a horseshoe-shaped coffee bar. No longer here. Nor are many of the other places that were the objective of the Freedom Riders. The Trailway Station down the street, the Woolworths counter, the H.L. Green counter, all of them are gone. But the Greyhound is still here, good memories and bad. You will notice when you go in that there is no more horseshoe-shaped coffee bar. It was taken out shortly after that and replaced by vending machines, of course. But there is a horseshoe-shaped reception desk, which we did in honor of that bar and what it meant to so many people. In fact, the jukebox selectors that used to be mounted on the back of that coffee bar are mounted on the wall in here in the Greyhound station in memory as well. The loading dock to the rear, where people arrived on the buses, was falling down, was condemned by the city, and was torn down and replaced by parking. But we also remembered that by painting a mural on the wall, the back wall of the bus station, as if you were looking out at that loading dock at the most active time of the bus station, and that was during World War II. So you'll see a lot of soldiers in that. They're actual people. They are my firm, the people who worked here. They're artisans that worked on the building, and they're clients of mine, and they will be remembered as well. For all of those who were here before, and I would like to ask how many in this crowd were here at the Greyhound station in '61? Bless you and welcome back. I applaud you. I hope that your visit today is far more peaceful and more enjoyable than it was in '61. And I invite you and the entire crowd and all of your friends to come back when you can and visit us at the Greyhound. It's a historic place filled with memories, and we would like for you to be part of it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Brother Parker. Now we're going to have comments from Bill Harper. Bill, where are you? Bill? Okay, here he comes. Let's give Bill Harper a rousing round of applause.
Hey, I understand I got 3 minutes. I'm going to take 3 seconds. We appreciate everybody being here, and I hope you all had a good time. And if you got any problem, call Hank Thomas. Thank you. Bye.
Now we're going to have Peter Sterling. Peter, please come up and make remarks.
Well, I certainly haven't prepared anything, but I'm very glad to be back here. It's an honor to be here and to see how much things have changed, and I was particularly impressed and grateful to the governor for his remarks, which I felt were, especially yesterday morning, in such detail about quoting Plessy versus Ferguson, that it to me represents a real deep understanding of what the issues have been and how things need to change. And I'm very glad to be back here and seeing how beautiful the town is and the state is. And I look forward tomorrow to visiting the Delta and seeing all these other important sites. So I'm very glad to see everybody doing well. Thank you.
Thank y'all for those comments. Next, the governor of Mississippi, a young man who was as young as John Horn says he was, from Yazoo City, Mississippi, Haley Barber. Let's give it up for the governor.
Thank you, Les. While the governor doesn't sweat much for a fat boy, I know how hot it is. So I'm going to be brief. Most of you have been subjected to hearing me make remarks twice already. I do want to mention one thing that Les McLemore said. Our young people will learn a lot from this monument, this marker, about the story of which they will learn if they come here, from this building, from the other parts of the Freedom Trail that's been authorized, and also from the Civil Rights Museum. The bicentennial of statehood in Mississippi is 2017. And in 2007, I asked the legislature to authorize and fund the building of a Civil Rights Museum, because I think there are people not only from Mississippi and all over America, all over the world, would want to come and visit that Civil Rights Museum and learn from what happened in Mississippi, in the South, in America during the Civil Rights Movement. It is a gigantically important part of our history. And for a variety of reasons, we got a little bogged down. And only this year, I should tell you if you're not here, we got bogged down over an argument about where it should be. We had more than one place that wanted to have a Civil Rights Museum. But this year, the legislature resolved that issue, and we will begin building the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum just north of the old state capitol. And it will be completed and operational before the bicentennial. And I will predict to you that it will be a sensationally popular attraction, that people will come from all over America to see and learn about the history of the Civil Rights Movement in Mississippi, a center of the Civil Rights Movement. And I will suggest to you, so that you'll know that I am in fact a capitalist, that this will be good tourism for Mississippi, Mayor, that a whole lot of people will come to Jackson for that purpose. But it'll also be good for people's future. For as Santana said, if those who do not learn their history are condemned to repeating it. So it's critical to us that people learn the history of this movement and the phenomenal outcome to which it led. Now it's my honor to unveil, Bob, the Freedom Trail marker honoring the Civil Rights Movement here at the Greyhound bus station.
I missed that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to give you a donation.